In terms of why Martyn Gerrard worked better than the other agency that I contacted, I was selling my flat in the middle of Brexit. So I first contacted the first agency in August 2018, and they gave me a very optimistic valuation. I ended up going with them, but then what happened is there was no interest in the flat. So after a couple of months passed, I decided to reconsider, and I went with the other agency, Martyn Gerrard, who had given me a much more realistic valuation. So I contacted them, and then very clearly I understood that their valuation had been, so to speak, the more honest one. And so to me, that really made a difference. It made me trust more in the agency, and we got off to a good start. So in terms of what's different and what's special about Martyn Gerrard, I would say that one thing that few people talk about is that by the time that one puts one's own flat in the market, one doesn't really know how these things operate. So what you're looking for is somebody who simultaneously sells the flat for you, but also helps you along. And so you need to learn from that estate agency. Well, what is this process, what it entails, what are the elements of it, and you need to trust the agent through the process that your interests are being looked after. So specifically in the case of Martyn Gerrard, they were very good at walking me down my expectations and helping me readjust in terms of what I expected to get for the flat. And they did that in several ways. They shared with me the data. They were willing to discuss with me. They kind of like listened to my initial disappointment. And eventually their strategy that they decided to propose worked well. And so in the end, I came out thinking that I had received for my flat what I felt was worth. They seemed to be operating within a culture in which they were really taking my side. Now, I understand, of course, that this is a commercial situation and that everybody is, in a sense, pursuing business objectives. But at no time did I feel that they were putting their own interests ahead of mine. So for that reason, I felt that that was really special. So in terms of what was different that Martyn Gerrard did through the Brexit period is, well, number one, because they start off with providing honest valuations. Then at a time in which you have a market that is very illiquid and that it's a falling market where prices are coming down, unless you start with an honest valuation that makes you trust the estate agent, it's very difficult to then come down and change one's own expectations, because you figure, well, why should I do this? This is just, in the interest of the estate agent who wants to sell my flat more quickly. But if you start from a position of honesty, where you understand that what the estate agent is telling you is true, then at that point you then are willing to adjust the expectations and get the flat sold. I agreed to give this testimonial because I felt that it had been a different treatment, and I felt that they had been honest. And when it comes to estate agents, there is this very difficult situation where at the beginning of the process, you speak to several of them, and then they all give you valuations. And then the decision you have to make is, do I go with the highest one, or do I go with the one that perhaps I feel is better? And especially for people like myself who were inexperienced at the time of, I was saying, my first flat, I ended up perhaps being a little bit greedy and going with the highest valuation. It was one of the well-known high street estate agents. And that was the wrong decision to make. And I'd like to send a message out that perhaps when doing this for other people, and certainly for myself in the future, one should not only look at the valuation that one is receiving from the estate agent, but rather take into account other qualities, such as, for instance, the honesty of the estate agent. In terms of recommending, by all means, the work that Trion, Dario, and of course James did was exceptional, and I would definitely recommend that to friends and family.